All right, everyone, is real estate still the gold mine it once was? So, is the opportunity gone in this real estate market or the future real estate market? We know what happened. We know of all the crashes, and I have mentioned it on my channel multiple times. I have mentioned Toronto condo market probably sinking even more, right? 40,000 units in 2025 up for completion and 35,000 units up for completion in 2026. And aside all of that, some people still believe that real estate cannot crash, that there's still the opportunity still exists. So I just would like to talk to you about that because I see some things in front lines. I see exactly what is going on. I speak to people. I try to make these opportunities. I try to find these gold mines. And I would like to talk to you about the next possible real estate, maybe gold mine or opportunity. Let's call it an opportunity because real estate gold mine, I think it's gone. Maybe it existed in the 50s, maybe it existed in the 70s, maybe it existed in the 90s. However, you need to be in the game in order to see the opportunity. So I do agree with that. But these numbers today don't make any sense. I did calculations on a house, $1.5 million in Toronto, putting down 20% down. And even with that, if you would just rent the identical home, all right, identical home, you would save about $50,000 just by renting the home versus you coming up with 20% down, having a mortgage, and writing those costs. So if you take the $50,000 on average a year annually and you translate it into a decade, so the next 10 years, that's a sum of $500,000. So think about it for a second. In order for you to match your investment, if you would buy that $1.5 million home today and you would write all that cost, you would like go against the odds, right? Go against all these markets and everything else, right? That house in a decade need to sell for more than $2 million in order to be at par with you renting that house, keeping your $20,000, 20% down payment, which would be somewhere in the $300,000 range, not worrying about the high ongoing costs, saving $50,000 a year, and that's it. Like, you know what I mean? Like maybe you're enjoying your life, right? Like with the income that you already have, right? So those are all the questions that I'm trying to answer, right? Because the opportunity, like even the opportunity for being a landlord, like we see it all over the news, like we read it, blogs, channels like mine, and on my channel, like I said it so many times, 81% of landlords in Toronto today are writing a deficit. So deficit means they have to pay out of a pocket an average more than $600 a month. So let's just talk about that for a second, right? So you're sacrificing your own funds and money. You're basically gambling with the markets because the markets go through shifts. You're dealing with bad or good tenants. You have a headache. You're dealing with taxes. You're dealing with so many things, and there are really no gains, right? So is the opportunity really gone in real estate? Like maybe it is gone in Toronto. I really don't know, right? Like and being a first time buyer and everything that has been going on and stuff like that, it's ludicrous. Nobody can afford anything today. What can you afford? An average salary, average salary, it's like yeah, what, $40,000, $50,000. Top earners on average earn around $80,000, 80 to 100, let's say, right? Okay, aside, lawyers and doctors and, engineers and all of that stuff. Okay, congratulations. You might be on top. But having said that, when you're on top, things change for you as well. you're not going to look at an average home that's today in January in Toronto, $1,067,000. You're not going to look at that. Because if I take you to that, it's literally going to be a single car garage with a room attached. That's it. That's what you can afford in Toronto for $1,067,000 today, right? On average, right? So the more money, right, the more problems. Obviously, the standard or division, becomes, and the opportunity, becomes opened up. So you seek more. You want a better house, you want a better car, you want a better this, you want a better that. Now you're a doctor, right? Like you cannot live in a garage. Like you need something better, right, to keep up at par. So looking at everything that has been going around, I'm like, I don't know, is the opportunity really, is it gone? Because I think there's not much room left for growth. And I'm talking recent year growth. I'm not talking, in 6 decades you're gonna be fine, right? Like I get that, like obviously. But I'm talking just recently, what we have seen, 2005 and 2010 and 2015, right? Like those are like, it was always an opportunity. And what was interesting, and I was thinking about that for a long time. I'm like, how did it make sense, right? Like, how did it make sense? Well, it did make sense back then because I would sell, let's say, a condo, like, 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom, 1,000 square foot condo around Square One area, all right, outside Toronto. I would sell it for, let's say, $300,000, 310, 35, 315, whatever. But let's call it $300,000. That new buyer purchasing that condo still has the opportunity for growth, and they anticipate that condo within a year or two will be 350, and that's what happened. So that person that sold that condo bought, let's say, a townhouse or a semi or whatever, right, at 450, $500,000, which had opportunity. The ceiling was still like the ceiling was still high, so you still had the opportunity on a townhome or on a semi to actually have some growth. And then these people that sold, townhomes and semis, and they needed a bigger backyard, they wanted more freedom, they wanted a double car driveway because that was a huge thing, right? Like back then, like, why are you selling your townhouse? Oh my gosh, I cannot deal with a single car garage and I cannot deal with a singular driveway. It was a big deal, believe me, right? Because they have to change cars between, couples or whatever. So horrible, right? So all they wanted is a double car driveway, period. So most of double car driveways would come up, would be associated with a detached home. So purchasing a detached home would be from 6 to 650 to, 750, 8, right? But there was still room to grow. Do you understand? There was still like, oh, don't worry about it. It's expensive. It's at $700,000, but eventually it will creep up to 800. And that's exactly what was happening, right? So let's say the growth of 5% annually on a condo that was $300,000 was 15 grand, right? On a home that was a million was 50,000, right? So or whatever, right? Like, but it was according to money, according to graph and everything else. And then you have the skilled workers, or you have people that have a network or a connection or something like that. So there was a difference, a huge difference between someone replacing a kitchen, doing a lot of work, crown moldings. Back in the day used to be big, and wainscoting and all of that stuff, like, the trim work, right? So even painting was obviously considered an upgrade, right? And by doing stuff like that, you can obviously bring fresh start to a property and see some gains and create profit. But now looking at the market today, like I just don't see it. And yes, I'm not gonna say we argue, but we have these arguments even on my comments and stuff like that. I try to reply to everyone as respectfully, obviously, as I can, and all of you have been wonderful. You are asking great questions, but can somebody explain how they see the fact and how they see that the market will boom? I don't see it. I'm sorry. I just don't see it. And on top of that, um, if I'm looking the market from the peak, that's why it's called from the peak, because it was a peak and then it started feathering down from the peak down, which means from March 2022, which the peak was declared at that time, we have seen prices feather. So why do you, Mr. and Mrs. Watcher, believe that we're going to see an incredible market in 2025 and that we are seeing obviously the interest rates feather down, but now that's it. The gray clouds are gone and now let's go. The boom is here. Where? Where is it? I don't see it because people cannot afford it. Doesn't matter what you have. You can have the best product. Yes, they sell. At what price? Right? They're not selling more than they used to sell in 2022. Why? Because the demand and choice. If there's no listings, if like if we're struggling because that time, that's exactly what was happening, right? It was a need. We needed more listings. Only that aspect created FOMO, fear of missing out. Because if there's a deficit of a product, automatically the price goes up. That's it. Economics, one-on-one. Doesn't exist or very little of it, obviously you can ask for whatever you want. Same thing in any business, car business, right? All of guys and girls that are into cars and stuff like that. These old timers, right? Like look, in the 60s, every second car was, I don't know, a Corvette or a Mustang back in the day. They were cheap. They're throwing them around, whatever. Now you see these vehicles in good conditions. They sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Why? Deficit. They don't exist anymore. And if you want it, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, you're going to pay for it. Okay? So same thing. So I don't see it. I think in spring of 2025, it's already happening, but it's been a little bit cold, as you know, like this week in Toronto and stuff like that. We've seen weather in minus, 15, 20, 25. So people are not moving around too much. But as soon as we hit that, weather condition being more comfortable, the listings will spike like that. We're already seeing it because everybody's waiting. Like we're going to list. And all these realtors and everybody else obviously in the room are saying, hold on. It's not the time. It's not the time. And when the time hits for it to be the right time, everybody's going to go online and everybody's going to show up online. So to a test, go on one of these apps and zoom out. You're going to see these orange or red bubbles stating, for sale units or whatever. Hundreds of them, thousands in GTA, right? So where's the opportunity? I mentioned that in the beginning of the video. Where's the opportunity, right? So I don't know, like maybe the opportunity now would be outside Toronto, to be honest with you. Like I get it. Like, I mean, it's far. Nobody wants to live there. That's why it's being cheaper. But look, if we continue the way we will continue, which it's unlikely because nobody can afford anything really anyways. So, I mean, the ceiling is already here. So what, unless we crash it and then we see more meat in the ceiling, I mean, the opportunity might be outside the city, right? Because outside the city, we have seen drops of 20%, 30%. I've seen Niagara Falls, I've seen Welland, I've seen so that's the southern part. Like I've seen Brantford, like I've seen Woodstock, London, Ontario, Windsor. Oh my gosh! Like I have some people commented from Windsor, and they're like, "It's crickets out here, right?" Um, then Dundalk, Barrie, all the way Wasaga Beach. Like prices are just not even close to what they were. So I'm saying like 20 to 30% down for sure. So I don't know. Is there opportunity there? Like if this continues, like I don't know how long these sellers will be able to hold on because, and I don't know how they're holding on. And just remember, they say the grass is always greener on the other side, right? Like you're probably walking in your neighborhood or your street, or you're looking at your neighbor and like, oh my gosh, how do they do it? Big house, beautiful lawn, all these cars, and like these businesses, and everybody's dressed, you know, amazing, and all that stuff. They're wearing all these Rolex watches and whatnot. Who knows? Like who knows? They might be in more problems and death than you are, right? Maybe you're content and you got what you got, but you're riding the wave without getting yourself into more trouble. Who knows how they're making it? I've seen situations from the outside. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, like how do they do it? Like how can they do this? Like I don't understand, right? But then, when they tell you, or they told me, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm negative equity here, I'm negative equity there, I'm writing a line of credit on this, I'm writing on that, and every time I need it, I just tap into it. And I'm like, look, man, like one day, you have to pay back. You get that, right? One day, it all has to be paid back with high interest. I just want you to know that. Well, I know, but things will get better. Yes, they might even get better, but they will not get better for you because you're in so much of that, or your hole is so big for you to get out and see sunlight. It's gonna take decades, man. Like, you know what I mean? But anyways, that's maybe a different video. So if you feel that somebody else would like to watch content like this, please share, like, subscribe, click on any of these other videos if you like to continue watching, and I will see you in the next one.